You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name is Andrew Mackay-Smith. I hope you're well. The interview subject that I have coming up for you, it's Travis Ryan. He's the singer in Cattle Decapitation. Now, the reason for the chat with him is to promote their appearances throughout February 2020 in Australia with Revocation. I'll read out some dates quickly because there's quite a few here. Very comprehensive tour, actually. Brisbane, we've got a show on Thursday, February 13th at the Brightside. On Friday the 14th, Sydney, you've got a show at the Factory Theatre. Newcastle, you've got one on Saturday the 15th at the Cambridge Hotel, the legendary Cambridge Hotel. Canberra, you've got one on Sunday the 16th at the Basement. Melbourne, of course, you get one. You get two, actually. On Wednesday, February 19 at Max Watts, and there's one in Frankston, which I think is a suburb of Melbourne, somewhere near Melbourne anyway, at Pelly Bar on the Thursday the 20th. Adelaide, you've got a show Friday the 21st at Enigma Bar in Perth. Over to you, the last one. Send them out on a good note, will you? Saturday the 22nd at Amplifier Bar. So here he is, Travis Ryan from Cattle Decapitation.
Hello.
Hey mate, how's things?
What's going on?
How's the old Aussie phono grind treating you, mate? Are we treating you well?
Yeah, you guys are seriously, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's so easy talking to you guys. I don't know what the fuck is the difference between like you and like pretty much any fucking European country. I don't know. You're just so easy to talk to. It's fucking awesome.
We get that a lot, and I just think, spending so much time as we do, we're forced to these days, as you bloody well know, in the sun. I think we just it sort of puts us in a position where we're fairly easygoing. That's all I can put it down to, because and I got this theory that because the environment here is so harsh and it's brutal, as you know, like you can live in like less than 5% of the continental landmass in Australia. That's apparently the data that's coming back, recent data. I think it's less than. It was probably less than 4%, you know what I mean, not to labour the point. But we have to be nice to each other because it's such a brutal environment. You never know when you're going to need help yourself. And I think that lends itself to why we are like this.
Well, why, and please don't take this the wrong way, because I'm the exact same way. I'm practically speaking about myself when I say this, but... And I've talked to many Australians, and they completely, every single one of them that I've ever said this to has agreed that you guys have this like self-deprecating side to you that I love, because I'm totally the same way. You're able to laugh at yourselves and poke fun at yourselves and your mates, and it's all good. Like, I love that, because there's too many times, especially fucking Americans, you poke fun at them and they take it as, all right, it's time to fight or some shit, but you guys just have this awesome nature about you, and I never understood where it came from. I don't really. You know
what my take on it is. This might not be the answer that you maybe thought you get from this one here, but let me tell you, I think in Australia, I've travelled a lot. My wife's family are from the Philippines. I know how good we've got it in Australia, and we have it bloody good. I know we've talked about how difficult the climate is and all the rest of it, but we are so far away from a lot of the bullshit that happens in other parts of the world that we know how good we've got it. So we kind of feel a bit. The word isn't embarrassed, but we're very modest about how good we've got it. And I don't think anybody would ever say it in the words that anybody else would ever say it in as many words that I've got, man. But I subscribe to Krishna consciousness, and every night, my prayer is I can raise two beautiful daughters here on the Gold Coast, very safe. I'm going to go swimming. After you, mate, I'm going to go swimming. And then after that, I'll take the kids down and we'll probably buy a toy from somewhere, from the local toy shop, you know what I mean? And then I'll get a cup of coffee, and then I'll read the papers, and then I'll think about what I'm going to do for the evening, which will probably involve some beers and Jack Daniels. You know what I'm saying?
Got the coast right there, the ocean. I through my travels, especially in the middle of the United States, I talk to people that have never even been outside their city, and they're my age, or never seen the ocean. It's just like
crazy.
I try not to take that shit for granted as much as possible. And you're also surrounded by places that are fairly cheap to go travel to. It sounds like you guys do a lot of holidays and stuff.
Southeast Asia. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Southeast Asia. Philippines is on the doorstep, as is Thailand. Bali. A lot of Australians go to Bali a lot. It's a bit of a bogan paradise these days.
Yeah. My wife is half Filipino as well. She's
same with mine. There you go. Whereabouts, if you don't mind me asking, whereabouts is your wife's the Filipino side from?
She's born and raised basically in the States, but her mom was from a little island. Because there's, how many thousands of islands, right? 5,000 islands or some crazy shit just in that country. But one of these little poor islands, it was just a very poor place.
Yeah, we go back to Cebu. When I say back, my wife's mother's from Cebu. She's from Lapu City. So
that sounds really fucking familiar. I know she's mentioned Cebu, but then again, she went out there with her family a few years ago, so I think that might have been one of the places they visited.
Yeah, it's I love the Philippines. It's temperatures, the weather's a bit more humid than here in Australia, but I love the people. I love the food. It doesn't cost a lot to be over there. I just love the kinship and the family. My kids obviously having Filipino heritage just get treated as little goddesses, and it's just a beautiful environment. Yeah, it's just a beautiful environment to be in, man. That's what I mean. Like just being here in Australia, we interact with people in the local, globally speaking, in the local vicinity, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, man, everybody's just cool. We just, we don't have the and I mean this, I don't believe for a moment we have the antagonisms that are in Europe, with Brexit and the EU and some of the issues in the States there with, the divisive political nature of the States with the Trump thing and then the border wall thing with Mexico and all this sort of shit. We don't have that. And I know you might get somebody else, mate, that completely disagree with me and say, but Manus Island, but Christmas Island, but immigration detention. But I'm talking about the volume of it. You know what I mean when I say that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Everybody, everywhere has their issues, and you just can't define an entire country by that. That's I think what a lot of our problem, a lot of the things we end up doing. We generalize and assume, and that's not really a good thing to do.
It's good talking to you though. Finally, I've got to tell you because I've spoken to Carl Willits from Bolt Thrower and Memoriam about this. I love when, and I know you guys aren't out there, so to speak, as an activist band, but I can tell you've got a good heart and you're a bloke who cares about what's going on the planet. That goes without saying. But I just love the fact that you do have that activist approach, and I've read interviews with you, and of course there's the lyrics there with your stance on overpopulation, climate change, and the treatment of animals for the purposes of producing meat for human consumption. All of these views are well known. So mate, did that come early to you that you wanted to use extreme metal as if you like?
It's echoes from my childhood, or from the shit I grew up on. Nuclear Assault, Megadeth, that kind of stuff. Even Death, he had a lot.
Pull the plug. There you go.
Songs. Using a death metal approach at talking about social issues. And for us, it's more about, obviously more about environmental issues. And a lot of it's tongue-in-cheek. A lot of it's metaphor. A lot of it's just irony. A lot of it's fantasy, but also it's more like reality steeped in fantasy. If you can, sure. I like to blur the lines. I don't want it to be, for one of the reasons why I never got into hardcore or punk necessarily was it just seemed too blatant. Like there wasn't as much art there. Yeah. For me.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
It just didn't seem to be the most artistic medium or whatever. I am not saying that death metal or extreme metal is. This is probably the worst thing we could be doing to get some sort of message out to anybody that was going to hear it. But you got to talk about something. You know what I mean? It might as well be. Matter.
I just don't know why it's not done more often, mate. To be honest, because between yourselves and Memoriam, I know there's Extreme Noise Terror from my youth who are still love, Napalm Death. I mean, there are bands out there that have done it. But to your point, I never understood why punk and hardcore seem to own that activist side of things when to be honest, there are far more metal fans than there are probably both hardcore and punk fans combined. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you only have to go to a festival. I mean, look, there are metal festivals. You know what I'm saying? Like Download.
Yeah.
Predominantly 90% metal.
I think there's more room in those. I don't give a fuck what people think. It's just my stupid ass opinion. Don't listen to me then. But if people want to get pissed, but I think punk and definitely hardcore. But maybe the music just leaves more to be desired. So at least the lyrics are good. I don't know. I don't know how to put that without sounding like a moron, but
you're right.
I don't know.
You're
I think sense. Metal or this kind of stuff just always seemed to be more interesting. I think musically, I'm in the music. To be honest, it may sound weird coming from a dude that writes. I'm responsible for all these lyrics. But to me, it's all secondary. Music is music, and music is first. And I also was a drummer before I did this band, so I've always been a musician. And while they go hand in hand, I feel like music is first and foremost. So all of this stuff is totally secondary. But there's something in me that says, well, if it's going to be secondary, might as well make it about something. So it has to have a voice. I never really saw it cutting through and almost like to the point where I do interviews and everybody wants to talk about the themes instead of the music, which has been the majority. I've straight up had to go into interviews or albums being like, hey, we need to start talking about these guys as the music
the
itself.
Musicians,
Yeah, because I mean the lyrics wouldn't have a vehicle if it wasn't for the music, So I don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense, but I think you're I understand your point completely, by the way, because I'm first and foremost a musician as well. And if the music wasn't there, nobody'd listen to the message. That's really important, and I think that's what you've said there. And the music with you guys has always been, I don't know whether it goes without saying that I don't know whether you've got this compliment before, but you guys have always reminded me of Cynic, and that's really important at the moment because we've just lost Sean Reinert, with the dual vocal thing that you've got going on. It's extreme metal, it's technical, but it's still very musical at the same time, and I don't think you'd have the audience you've got if it wasn't for that.
Yes. So a lot of that started just a few albums ago, personnel change. We got Dave, and that opened us up to a more technical, breadth of work, I guess you could say.
I think you guys are getting better with every album, and I genuinely mean that. I followed the band for a number of years now, over a decade, and I enjoyed Medium Rarities. I like the fact that you released that. You gave fans an opportunity to check out what was going on in the past, but then, I didn't expect, to be quite frank, and this is not in disparaging remark in any way, but I didn't expect Death Atlas to be as strong as what it was. It's fantastic.
Cool.
You've found that midpoint between injecting just enough melody into extreme metal to make it musical, and that's so bloody hard. That's what Chuck Schuldiner was on that journey when he did Control Denied. And that's a really important point there, because that's what expands the boundaries of extreme metal. And as you can tell, I'm an extreme metal evangelist. I believe that it's a role for extreme metal, and just about anybody who loves music, anybody who says they love music and they haven't gotten into extreme metal, you're one of the bands that I point to, because you've got the image down pat, but then the music's definitely there as well. So is it the journey that you've been on, really? And I know what you're saying about the slight change in the band's sound. Has that been entirely intentional, or has that just been one of those things that's evolved as new people have come in?
I mean, it's the easiest thing to say is, oh, it's all an evolution, but that's actually the case. I mean, I didn't. I really didn't stop and say, you know what, I'm going to start singing all over this shit. That didn't really happen. That these melodic vocals, like screamy melodic stuff, came from hearing overtones live in a lot of the screams I was doing, and then realizing, oh shit, what if I actually hit notes? And then same with the low growl stuff, the guttural stuff too. Like, what if I actually hit notes doing this stuff? I don't really hear anybody doing that. I'd like to do something different. I mean, what's the point in trying to sound like your peers, or that's why I've always been so hard on deathcore. It's just like, to me, it just seemed extremely incestuous. It just so many bands were coming out just sounding like the last band. It happened with fucking Black Dahlia Murder. Black Dahlia Murder comes out. Next thing you know, there's 5 fucking Black Dahlia Murders out there. And it's just like, dude.
Yeah.
And where are they now? They're gone because one prevailed. They're called Black Dahlia Murder. So yeah. I don't really, I don't really see the sense in doing stuff exactly like everybody else is doing. And I think there's been a whole lot of experimentation. I think people are fucking finally getting it. And there's not even so much experimentation, but just like weird avenues that metal and extreme metal have gone. Like for a while there, I was just like, I am bored as fuck with the metal world,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, we go through that. Yeah.
we hit the ceiling, and then boom, next thing you know, there's so much atmospheric stuff, so much blackened doom, whatever shit, and people are adding elements that seemingly, shouldn't go together, but they do, and it's like chocolate and peanut butter, and it's fucking amazing,
Yeah, I know that thing like where you go, yeah, we're really original. We play blackened death thrash, and it's like, oh, for God's sakes, just kill me.
Yeah.
I'm done with that shit. And I know what you're saying about when the Black Dahlia murder came out. I'm not going to mention the other labels, except I know for a fact Metal Blade weren't a part of this. But you know how the indies ape the majors? Like, just say Job for a Cowboy blow up, or Black Dahlia murder blow up, and then the other indies go and get their own version of that, and then they try to push that.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't get it. But, I mean, diversity is king. I think between Metal Blade and Nuclear Blast, with the greatest of respect to the other labels, if you're just stuck with those two labels, you're going to get a really wide palette of heavy metal, extreme metal, through to really atmospheric stuff if you like that sort of thing.
Yeah, and Metal Blade, they picked up on that very recently even, with the signing of Igor and what is that, Dance of the Dead or whatever the fuck they're called. The president of the label walked into a show one day and was just like, what the fuck? What is this? Why are all these metal kids watching this techno stuff? Like, what's going on here? And they realize, they see that it's not just about, two guitars, a bass, and drums, and a singer. There's other things you could do with it, and there's other things going on, and it's going to happen with or without you. And you either jump on and be a part of it, and keep your label going, because that's obviously diversity is not going anywhere. It's only going to things are only going to get more fucked up. Look at baby metal. What the fuck is that? Look at poppy. All the stuff. Love it or hate it. It's
the baby metal thing is
nobody's doing it.
The baby metal thing is annoying, to be honest with you. I don't look. Believe me, I'm not a lefty. Okay, so I'll be clear about this. But this whole thing about objectifying these girls dressed up like as if they're 4 years of age, it's pretty weird to me.
I'm right there with you on that. I'm not. There's not much of a conservative bone in my body, but I have. Have values.
Yeah, exactly. That's the same way I feel. I was like, I can't do this. I'm not doing this because I get what the draw is here. It's these girls dressed up like as if they're 4 years of age, or young kids, like pre-teens. They're not.
I mean, the music, the players are insane.
They're incredible. Yeah, agreed.
But they're not the focus. It's these kids, and I personally, I don't get it either, but fuck. Good luck trying to talk shit about them. They just get plenty of people just handing you your ass, kind of like Ghost.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Ghost things. I
don't get it, but
well, I tell you something else that initially I didn't get, but I've sort of warmed to, is the amount of, and they are extreme metal fans, death metal, black metal, everybody under the broader banner of extreme metal. These fans are getting into synth wave. Now there are these have you seen that? All the Facebook pages that have been springing up with that?
Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. Was like with Metal Blade, they had to, or they saw this synthwave shit going on, and they were just like, "Whoa, what the fuck? What's happening?" Like, these are metalheads here. The guy walks into the show, and it's sold out, and there's 800 metalheads there watching what sounded to him like fucking techno. It's just like, whoa, what? Or a John Carpenter soundtrack. So I'm fucking stoked as a huge fan of electronic music, and synthesizers. Growing up with that shit, I am fucking on cloud nine, especially with this emergence of 80s goth influence shit. I'm just fucking in heaven. I love all this stuff, Soft Kill and Drab Majesty and all that kind of shit. It's cool because like I grew up Sisters of Mercy and The Cure and all that stuff, and to see like children, I feel, if you're in your 20s, sorry you're a kid to me, but to see these kids who should not have a grasp on that part,
Sisters of Mercy and shit. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Walk right in and fucking kill it, and just do something new with it. Like there's this band Choir Boy. I just fucking phenomenal. I mean, the singer is jaw-droppingly fucking phenomenal, and I met them. They are kids. They are early mid-20s, and they fucking get it. They sound like they're from 1985.
Yeah.
And like it was recorded back then, all that shit. They have all the nuances, all that stuff, and it's just fucking amazing.
I check that out now. Choir Boy. Yeah, is it spelled CHOIR?
Yeah. Check out Human Leather. That's the band that they were before they started Choir Boy. It's like their side project or whatever.
Okay.
I kind of like Human Leather more, but Human Leather and Choir Boy is like a more polished version of Human Leather, but both of them are fucking awesome. And then I'm sure you're familiar with Soft Kill at this point.
I'm not, man. Yeah, I've got to say I like the music, but it tends to be a lot of indie shit that I see people doing themselves and posting on Facebook. So
yeah,
I know Perturbator and Kavinsky and a lot of the French stuff, but it's seen still sorting itself out. To your point, I mean, I haven't heard Choir Boy or Human Leather, so man, it sounds like I've got some catching up to do over a few beers tonight.
There's not an extreme bone in it. It's very much just 80s new wave.
Yeah.
But done now, done by kids, and they're like, I was there, I was alive during all that shit. That's the stuff that helped. I'm 45, so
you're about the same age as me, mate. I get it. Yeah, you're coming from the same school.
80s, so you went through it too. Like, you know, I Tears for Fears, all that kind of shit, like Oingo Boingo and whatever. I grew up with all that stuff, and that's what helped shape the melodies that are in my head. And there's stuff on Death Atlas that I was the entire time we were writing this shit, I was saying, dude, this is very 80s to me. Like,
cool,
extremely 80s. I was listening the whole time we were writing Death Atlas. My main things I listened to was probably Choir Boy and Soft Kill, his other band Pleasure Grave, which is fucking phenomenal. And
I'm writing these ones down, man. Yeah,
dude, BLESSURE. So it's like French for, I think it's French for a serious injury.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's Grave, GRAVE. Fucking have fun with that. There's a ton of it, and it's all fucking awesome. Just very primitively recorded, but the guy just sounds like a fucking Tascam 4-track recording from the 80s, but he does it on a book, and it's just fucking awesome, dude. I don't know how these people do this shit. And brilliant songwriting.
I wonder what it is, though, because you and I sound as passionate as each other about synthwave. How on earth extreme metal fans, how we made that jump? Because most of us, well, a lot of us have done it. And the two styles of music have nothing to do with each other. And to your point about these people, we can't even say it's an ageist thing, because we grew up through the 80s. In our childhoods in the 80s and the early 90s, of course. But these kids
you saw, though, in the 90s what happened. Death metal people, I always said they traded in their BC rich warlocks for fucking turntables. A lot of people turned to techno. In the, at least where I lived. A lot of the guys that were our death metal brethren or extreme grind, they went from Napalm Death to fucking Kyoki. Like, and being a DJ and shit. And I think it just happened again, but instead of turntables, it's fucking synths. And these kids grew up with a fucking MacBook in their hands. Let's face it. They grew up with GarageBand in their hands. They know how to fucking record, and it's mind-boggling.
You're onto something there. Yeah.
Extremely jealous as somebody who grew up with having to bounce tapes back and forth on a karaoke machine and a couple Radio Shack mics. But yeah, it's cool. I think people just need to keep their mind open. Don't close yourself off from any kind of information or music.
No,
and that goes for stuff that you don't want to see. That goes for stuff you don't want to hear, or stuff you don't want to see, and news you don't want to fucking hear, reality that you don't want to.
Yeah, that's a big deal, mate. The echo chambers that are there. I'm doing a white paper on it at uni, actually, echo chambers, and that's a real issue with people, massive issue, because there are kids out there, I agree with you. If you're in your 20s, you're a kid. Sorry, but it's just how it is. And I'm at uni with them, man. I'm 20 years older, 22 years older than most of them. And all great people, by the way, but they're just not worldly enough to understand they're getting sucked into this vector, which is very hard to get out of. Just following certain accounts on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, for example. And it's toxic because you need to have subversive views and opinions, certainly subversive to your opinions, to your own views, to challenge them if that's not happening. And you and I grew up with that. That's why I think people of our, hate to use this terminology, but our generation, Gen Xers, I think we're a bit more measured than the people that came before. And so the baby boomers had it fairly easy, let's face it. And the ones that have come after us are the generation, and it's bloody happening at my daughter's school, which I can't stand, where they're doing running races and swimming races, and they're not issuing first, second, and third ribbons. They're just issuing participation ribbons to all of the kids. Yeah. I can't stand that, mate, because there are kids who aren't academic. Thankfully, my daughter's pretty good at schoolwork, but she's not a sports person by any means. But there are other kids, that's their time to shine. That's their time to be put on a pedestal in front of their peers. And you're taking that away from them. And I think that's the issue these days, is that, people, there is a first and there is a last, and there are people that come in between, and there are people that have different opinions to you. And you know what? It's really important that you actually read a book by Noam Chomsky or anybody like that, anybody who's come beforehand, and who can explain some of the vagaries of the world to you. But I just don't feel it's happening quickly enough because, from the perspective that social media is speeding up people's brains to have these sub 30-second attention spans.
Completely.
Have you got to head off, mate? I think we're probably over time.
Yeah, I actually got to get my packages to the post office. I got like a half hour to do that. I tend to talk a lot and just ramble on.
Well, that's probably.
That's another thing about Australians I've noticed is just you're easy to talk to and converse with, and I'll just keep going and going.
No, that's cool, brother. Yeah, look, I'm going to be at the show in Brisbane when you play. I've already had a chat to Dave from Revocation about it all, man. I know they're looking forward to it, man, and we certainly are too, man. So you know that, man. You got fans down here, mate, and we can't wait to see you guys.
Awesome. We can't wait to be there, man.
Okay, all good, brother. Take care.
All right, you too. Take it easy, man.
Thanks, mate. Okay, catch ya. You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and of course that means I'm Andrew Mackay-Smith. The interview subject you just heard from then was Travis Ryan from the US outfit Cattle Decapitation. Thanks for listening.